The Masai Mara, it's more than just one of the world's great nature reserves, right? It's a grand stage. And on this stage, these epic sagas of power, of brotherhood, and sometimes tragedy, they unfold every single day. Today, we are diving deep into the story of two of its most legendary casts of characters.
Just look at these two kings from two completely different eras. On the left, you've got the icon himself, Scarface, his face literally a roadmap of countless battles. And on the right, Lorc Lup of the Black Rock Boys, a symbol of a powerful new dynasty. These lions led two of the most famous coalitions the Mara has ever seen. But you'll see their stories couldn't be more different.
And that's really the heart of our explainer today. We're looking at the parallel stories of these two dominant groups. Both of them rose to power through incredible strength and unity, but the way their reigns ended, well, it was starkly different, and it tells a much, much bigger story about the savannah itself.
To really understand their stories, first, you have to get what the life of a male lion is actually like. Becoming a king is not a birthright. It is a brutal, dangerous journey that starts with being thrown out into a world of total uncertainty.
The absolute key to survival is the coalition. If a young male is out there alone, he's vulnerable. He's probably not going to make it. But together, as a brotherhood, they can hunt, they can defend themselves, and eventually they can challenge for a throne. This alliance, it isn't just a smart strategy, it is literally a matter of life and death.
So the path is almost like something out of a myth. First, a young male gets exiled from his own pride. This is to keep him from challenging his own father. Then he's got to find allies, he's got to form a coalition, and finally comes the ultimate test, using their combined strength to conquer a territory and take over a pride of their own. Those are the rules of the game.
Now, our two groups didn't just play the game, they absolutely mastered it. They became legends. So let's meet them both, and we'll start with the old guard. Meet the Four Musketeers, Scarface, Hunter, Marani, and Scipio. Back in 2011, these four brothers just stormed onto the scene. They dethroned the dominant males of the famous Marsh Pride, and their leader, Scarface, became this global icon. You could spot him instantly by that wound over his right eye that gave him his name. For a solid decade, they were the undisputed kings.
And within these coalitions, you get totally different leadership styles. Some kings are rugged brawlers, like Scarface, warriors who expand their empire through sheer force, their bodies literally a map of battles won. But others lead as providers, known more for their hunting skill and a gentler nature, often making sure their own cubs get to eat first.
And this brings us to the Black Rock Boys. Born in 2017, this brotherhood got famous for just being massive, and for their incredible skill at hunting buffalo. The heart of the group was Lorca Lup, who was known as a gentle giant. To his fans all over the world, he was Quan Quan, this name of endearment. You could always recognize him because he had this constant nasal drip from a little hole in his jaw.
But no king reigns forever. For the Musketeers, their story ended exactly as you'd expect out on the savannah. It was a slow, dignified decline, all governed by that timeless, natural cycle of life.
Their decade of being on top was worn down by the very same things that made them kings in the first place. In 2019, Hunter just disappeared during a fight over territory. A year later, Scipio died from his injuries. So by 2021, only the aging Scarface and Marani were left. Their numbers were just thinned out by time and by battle.
This was the natural order just playing out. On June 11, 2021, at the ripe old age of 14, which is ancient for a wild lion, Scarface took his last breath. He wasn't killed by rivals, he wasn't killed by poachers, he was simply old and weary. It was a king's rest, a truly fitting, peaceful end to such a long and successful reign.
All right, now we pivot, because the story of the Black Rock Boys is not a story of natural decline. Their end was sudden, it was violent, and it is deeply unsettling. It's a modern tragedy, really, one that was shaped by forces that go way beyond the natural laws of the savannah.
I mean, just look at the speed of this collapse. In 2021, Oloyato vanishes. Then, January 2024, Olobor dies because of human-wildlife conflict. Almost exactly 1 year later, Lorca Lup is found dead under really suspicious circumstances. And just months after that, the last dominant brother, Oloshipa, is killed by rivals because his coalition was too weak to defend their territory. A dynasty that was built over years just shattered in months.
And this story is not an isolated incident. This number, 50 plus, that's the number of documented lions killed just in recent years from human-wildlife clashes in the Masai Mara alone. The Black Rock Boys story is part of a much bigger and much more troubling pattern.
This quote from a fan powerfully captures the feeling that fueled the global reaction. Had Lorcalup and his brothers fallen in battle or to old age like Scarface, people would have mourned it as nature. But this felt different. This felt like an injustice.
What happened next was, well, it was truly unprecedented. The story of Lorcalup's death didn't stay in the Mara. It ignited a global response, and it transformed a wild lion into an international symbol.
His global followers, from China all the way to the United States, they pooled their own money to do something extraordinary. They bought billboard space in London's Westfield Mall and even in New York's Times Square to honor his memory and raise awareness. I mean, think about that. A lion from the plains of Kenya memorialized in the heart of the world's biggest cities.
So you really have to ask, why this one lion? What drove people to do things like hire private investigators and plaster his face in Times Square? It was his gentle nature, that reputation he had, combined with this profound sense of injustice, a feeling that the natural rules of the game we saw earlier had been broken.
The contrast really couldn't be clearer. The Musketeers had a decade-long reign that ended naturally, and they became a classic Marin saga. The Blackrock Boys' reign was half as long, cut short by human conflict, which transformed their legacy into a global symbol for a conservation crisis.
And so we're left with this final, kind of lingering question. As we watch these incredible lives unfold, are we actually witnessing stories of conservation and a thriving ecosystem? Or are we just documenting the last magnificent sagas of Wild Kings before their world?